What is commodity dependence? Have you ever wondered how some countries relying heavily on a few key products for their economic strength? This situation is known as commodity dependence. It occurs when a nation's exports are primarily made up of raw materials or primary products, like minerals, agricultural goods, or fuels. Specifically, a country is considered commodity dependent when more than 60% of its export value comes from these commodities. In Latin America, this pattern has roots that go back to colonial times. During that era, economies were built around exporting raw materials to Europe. This reliance on commodities continued throughout much of Latin American history, influencing both economic and social structures. In the 20th century, many countries tried to industrialize to reduce this dependence. However, the adoption of neoliberal policies under the Washington Consensus led to deregulation and a return to commodity dependence, especially in South America. Commodity dependence presents several challenges for Latin American countries. One major issue is exposure to volatile international commodity prices. These prices can change dramatically and unpredictably, leading to economic instability. Additionally, commodities often have a long-term downward trend in price compared to manufactured goods. This trend can limit growth opportunities for countries that rely heavily on these exports. Another challenge is that economies based on commodities tend to lack dynamic productive structures. This means they may not have the technological innovation or diversification needed for sustainable development. As a result, these countries may struggle to move up the value chain and develop industries that offer higher added value. During the early 2000 commodity boom, driven by increased demand from countries like China, many Latin American nations saw a rise in commodity exports. This surge brought economic growth and higher revenues. However, it also reinforced the region's dependence on commodities, making economies vulnerable to future price shocks. The reliance on these raw materials limits broader economic diversification. In summary, commodity dependence in Latin America is when a large portion of exports comes from raw materials. This long-standing economic pattern affects the region's stability and development potential. It ties growth closely to the often unstable global commodity markets and restricts the growth of more diversified, innovation-driven sectors.